Everyone knows these silks, those of Meadow Stable and the horse that ended a 25-year Triple Crown drought. But before there was Secretariat, and even before Riva Ridge, the first real star for the stable emerged at exactly the midpoint of the 20th century. His name was Hill Prince. Owned and bred by Meadow Farm's Christopher Chenery, he was out of the Meadows homebred mare Hildine, and sired by the great endurance runner Prince Quillo. Yep, if that name does sound familiar, it's because he was also the sire of something royal, dam of that other star Meadow had 23 years later. A champion at 2 years old, he headed into the Triple Crown races of 1950 as one of the favorites after a victory over the highly regarded Middle Ground in the Wood Memorial. The Meadow was not to add a blanket of roses to those blue and white colors on this Derby day, though, as Hill Prince had a bit of a trouble trip in the run for the roses and had to settle for second behind Middle Ground. The two met again just a week later, with Hill Prince avenging his Derby defeat by defeating his rival in the Withers at Belmont. It was in the Preakness a week after that. Wait a minute. 3 races in 3 weeks for top 3-year-olds? Yeah, things were a little different back then. That Hill Prince might have turned in the finest race of his career. A change of tactics by trainer Casey Hayes and his jockey Eddie Arcaro allowed Hill Prince to just roll on the lead in the Preakness, easily defeating Middle Ground by 5 lengths. Their rubber match in the Belmont turned into not much of a match at all, though, as Hill Prince could not sustain his early pace and lead, fading to finish 7th behind Middle Ground in the Test of the Champion. Hill Prince went on to have a sensational second half of his 3-year-old year, winning such races as the Jerome and the prestigious Jockey Club Gold Cup over that year's champion older horse, Nor. He didn't just win on the East Coast either, as he traveled to take on the best of the West in California. And although he lost the Hollywood Gold Cup to Nor, he ended his season with a win over the top 3-year-old filly Next Move in the Sunset Handicap. Despite the 2 losses to Middle Ground, he had done enough in the eyes of the press to be voted Horse of the Year in 1950. Hill Prince had an abbreviated campaign as a 4-year-old after suffering a slight fracture to his left hind leg in the early spring of 1951. On the shelf till September, he ran 3rd in an allowance race, followed that up with a win in the New York Handicap at Belmont, and fell just a head short in his quest for back-to-back Gold Cups when caught on the wire by that year's Belmont Stakes winner, Counterpoint. In those days, the year-end awards were not consolidated under the Eclipse Awards like they are today. 3 different racing press entities provided their own awards. Despite a very brief, and by some standards unimpressive resume in his 4-year-old season, he still managed to get the nod for champion handicap horse from the Daily Racing Form and Thoroughbred Racing Associations. The Turf and Sports Digest felt it should go to another horse. Who, you ask? Oh, just one named Citation. He started out his 5-year-old season on the West Coast, winning the San Marcos Handicap, but after a very poor showing in the Santa Anita Handicap, it was found he had developed some filling in his right foreleg and was then retired to stud. As a stallion, he was not considered great by any means, but was better known as what we call a broodmare sire. Oddly enough, something that other horse from Meadow Stable was also best known for, and sired the future dams of champion horses Chuvy and Dark Mirage. He lived to the nice old age of 23 when he died in 1970. Once again, sort of oddly enough, the same year that other star of Meadow Stable was born, and he has been interred at Meadow Stable. Hill Prince was inducted into the Racing Hall of Fame in 1991 and has been listed 75th in a list of top 100 racehorses compiled by the Blood Horse. In 1975, the New York Racing Association inaugurated the Hill Prince Stakes. Run back and forth between distances of 8 and 9 furlongs, it currently sits as a Grade 2 race run in the fall at Belmont Park. It does seem a little strange to honor a horse with a graded stakes race run on the turf when he never ran on the surface. But perhaps he would have excelled on it given the chance. Speaking of switching surfaces, the winner of the Hill Prince last year has now made a name for himself on the dirt as well, winning the Woodward recently and now on the path to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Then Luke Cullen on the outside of Yoshida. Bricks and Mortar gets an inside trip. He's 3 lengths behind. And riding the hedge to the top of the stretch, Secretariat War. Turning for home in front, Frostmorn. Sidles up alongside. Bricks and Mortar needs a way through. Yoshida's there. there in Lucullen on the outside, final furlong. And here is Frostmorn. Frostmorn takes the lead. Bricks and Mortar trying to squeeze through traffic there. Yoshida's Secretariat War on the far outside. It's Lucullen. They're all coming down the line together, and it's going to be Yoshida. Yoshida got through and won it. And then it was...
This education segment brought to you by Thorofan. Check out Thorofan.com to learn everything about this amazing sport we call thoroughbred racing, and to become a member today. Thorofan, giving the fans a voice.